God damn, I need IPA.
This is Beering Ain't Easy, your podcast for beer humor, dad humor, and beer tastings from Texas and beyond. So crack one if you got one and turn it up.
All right, everyone, welcome to Beering Ain't Easy, Season 2, Episode 4, with Adam, Ryan, and Drew.
I noticed that you injected Ryan's name in front of mine. You're trying to push me out of the podcast?
That was out of spite.
There was a nice little suspenseful pause there, too.
I was waiting to see if my name was even going to be included.
To be determined, I had a moment of hesitation.
You've been cut from the show. So we have a pretty awesome episode today. So
as usual,
it's always an awesome episode in my books. Before we get into the topic, maybe we should just say what we're drinking. We're all drinking something different today. So Adam, what you got, man?
I have a Marzen called Vernal, but equal parts Brewing.
Is it Vernal or Vernal?
To be determined. Vernal, you never know.
You know what I mean, Vern?
I'm wrapping up my Marzen season.
It's almost November, so
it's almost November. So,
how about you, Ryan? What you got, man?
Well, I'm empty right now, so I suppose I need to crack into one. I got Slippin Into Darkness by Brazos Valley Brewing. It's a Russian Imperial Stout with coffee, cocoa nibs, and hazelnut. So I'm pretty excited about it.
Dang, bringing the heat tonight.
Mm-hmm.
As usual.
What about you, Drew?
I am. I was inspired by our previous episode on Italian Pilsner, so I'm also have a equal parts brewing, formerly Sigma Brewing beer. It's called Gorlami. And so I'll to be determined if I bring out the Italian accent again.
So can you describe the appearance of your beer?
It's got a yellow hue to it.
When I walked in the room, it looked like Drew was drinking a glass of piss.
I don't know, if this is what your piss looks like, you have not been getting enough water.
You've been reading too many signs in front of the urinals at work.
This is like a night after a night of drinking color. It does not taste anything like that, thankfully. It's very tasty.
How do you know that?
I don't want to disrespect equal parts like that. It's a very tasty beer. All right. So today we're going to talk about what draws people to breweries and what attracts people to go out and check out breweries. But before that, I wanted to inject a piece of beer news because this is like the podcast people go to for news, right? I mean, we're a highly trusted source of information.
Us and CNN and Fox News.
That's a pretty good match. Pretty good ensemble of news stations there.
I didn't want to offend any of our listeners, so I figured if I threw in both of those.
Yeah, you just toe the line. Should have picked USA Today to be ultra, just completely vanilla. So there is a company. I'll back up a second. So Adam, when we brewed our amazing home brew, do you remember we did the whole grain brewing? Do you remember that giant ass pot of wet soppy grains that we got stuck with at the end of the brewing process?
I do.
So when you brew beer, a 6-pack of beer produces a whole pound of just waste grains. And so apparently there is a company in Berkeley, California, which that doesn't surprise me at all that it was from Berkeley, that is now recycling those grains into edible food products. It's called Regrained. So they make pastas, they make puffy snacks. And so I thought this was a very interesting idea. So they're claiming that brewers just dump all their grain into the landfill and there's methane coming out of it and they're ruining the earth. I did not know this. So Ryan, you know a little bit about brewing.
It's such a biased story. I feel like every single brewery that I've ever heard of donates their grain to farmers, local farmers. I know my brother's brewery does it. I've seen Carbox process where they do it. And I feel like that's just what you do. So I don't know where they're getting this whole like dump it in the landfill idea.
It is Berkeley, so I mean, it's probably the result of global warming. I mean, the cause of global warming as well.
I mean, to be fair, the biggest issue with brewing is the amount of water that it uses, both in the brewing process and the cleanup required between every batch. So really, what their beef should be is how inefficient with water the process is.
I am kind of intrigued about beer products, though. Like, I feel like that's a whole line of foods that I kind of want to buy something to see what it tastes like.
Some water bottles with some recovered brewery clean out water.
I could see making like pizza crust with it. Like that sounds like it would be good for spent beer grains. Or what about breakfast cereals? I feel like there's a whole market here where they're trying to make it this like green thing. But why don't they just try to sell it as beer cereal, right? Like
Stout cereal.
Yeah. Honey Nut Beerios. All right. That's my beer news for today. Do we need to move on to our topic?
Yes, please. Please. I think we've already lost 3/4 of the listeners.
We'll cut that whole section out. Maybe. All right. So today we did a little market research to find out what draws people to breweries outside of the beer. And so the first question on my mind was, do people care about all the other stuff attached to a brewery, or do they really go for just the beer? So that I put a poll up on our Instagram page to see the answer to that question. So what do y'all think? Do you think the vibe, the events and all that makes a big difference or not?
I think it does.
Yeah,
what do you think,
I
Ryan?
agree. Yeah, for sure.
Well, according to our thousands of listeners who responded, that was a 70% yes, that makes a difference. And there was a 30% that said, just give me the damn beer.
Well, I think like the beer is a qualifier.
Like you have to have a certain minimum like quality of beer before you walk in the door.
But like for me, it was like, there's the certain breweries that I love going to. And if one of them is having an event, that may prompt me to go to that one.
That's fair. It's something that's a differentiator. When you have 85 breweries or something, you've got to pick a reason.
I think one of the things we probably need to dive into is what events attract which type of patron too, which I'm sure we'll get into.
Yeah. So what type of events have you seen? So like Ryan, what are some of the ones you think of that are pretty common?
So I think of the classic bingo, trivia nights, and then I guess, like anniversary parties, Oktoberfest, all the holidays.
Yeah. I mean, like live music is always like a throwdown, just straight up. Some people do comedy shows like cornhole tournaments.
What about a petting zoo?
Haven't seen that, but just when I looked at you, I thought you were going to say like Ryan had sent us this event that's going on at Spindle Tap, and it's like small people wrestling. That's probably the wrong word for that. That's probably the most unique event that I've ever seen.
Yeah, for sure. I know, like, I've been to events at Eureka Heights where they did a dad joke competition that was open to anybody, and that like packed the house. They've also done like hot wing eating competitions, and they did like brought in like a vendor and did like a mini golf tournament. So like they've done some pretty creative stuff too.
Oh, nice.
I'm still waiting for a petting zoo.
The petting zoo. I haven't seen that one yet. So that was the other poll that I put up today is like, what event do people gravitate to the most? And so I think first we need to go around and see like what draws you the most.
Well, I'm not going to answer your question, but I have a side answer that I've wanted to get out there. So I'm going to go with the most intriguing event that I've seen. And that was that Spindle Tap having that beer Olympics last year. That I wish like it would have worked out where we could have gone. That's got to be the most fun.
How was it going to work?
There was Olympic competitions.
Yeah. You had a team, you had to sign in a team of 4 and you competed against different beer challenges, almost like the beer Olympics we did on our episode.
Yeah. You competed against some of the greatest athletes in the world.
And somehow avoided liability to the brewery for anything that comes after. So back to the question. Other than the beer Olympics, Or is that your answer? Beer Olympics.
A Beer Olympics.
Okay.
I
mean, must not have worked that well because it didn't get you out there.
I had obligations, damn it.
The way my life has become now, we plan our brewery trips completely around the food. We go either for an early dinner, we go right around lunchtime. So the food, I mean, obviously, first and foremost, it's going to be a quality of a beer. It's got to be a place I want to go. But then after that, kind of the trump card is the food. We always plan around that. So I'd say that's my second biggest factor after the beer.
I'm a huge fan of the live music. Like if there's live music, I love all types of music, and that just seals it for me. It sets the vibe. I'll even drink terrible beer when there's live and music involved.
Live music, it doesn't even have to be good music. Just live.
Just a dude with a guitar. Yeah, let's do it.
So I have a bonus question for everyone. So if there is let's say a good anniversary party or a special release of like a unique beer with no event, which one intrigues you the most?
Man, I'm a sucker for the new beer release. Like,
yeah, that's what I'm thinking too.
I'm chasing the beer.
Me too, without a doubt.
I mean, luckily, most of the anniversary parties are like stacked up with a release. They're smart. They understand.
They know. They know. Well, sometimes you wonder though, like, do they even need all that extra event? Or just is the beer enough? That's really the question.
They just brand it as, hey, this is our first anniversary new release beer, and then that's all they need.
Yeah.
Do y'all want to know the results of our highly responded to quiz?
Did anyone besides me respond?
Actually, we got more responses than I thought, so I feel pretty good about it.
Don't say the number because that will ruin our credibility.
It's somewhere between 5 and 1,000.
1 million.
Between 5 and 1,000. What's funny about this is we did get a lot of music. I think like people put multiple answers, and music was one that came up the most. But what's funny is like everybody had something different. Like someone had trivia, someone had karaoke, someone had food trucks. Like there was a whole bunch of ideas. And so that tells me that like having this rotation, like most breweries, they have like a big rotation. It's appealing to different people. And there's bingo people out there. I'm not one of them, but there are bingo people out there.
Karaoke is an interesting one. That's the one you don't see too often.
I'm a huge fan of karaoke, so I'd be all about it if a brewery did that. I just don't know how many beers it would take before I got on the mic.
Somebody was advertising karaoke, and it was like the first 5 people that went drank free. I can't remember who that was.
That gets people to break the ice.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
People will be lining up at opening.
So, Ryan, you have some connections in the brewing scene. What have you heard as far as what brings, from a brewer's perspective, what is bringing people in the doors more than anything?
Yeah. I know some people. Now, so the Nook, which, sidebar, if anyone's traveling through the Tulsa area or lives within any kind of driving proximity, go check out the Nook Brewing in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. You won't regret it. All right, back to the question.
Charging you for advertising?
Yeah. Well, if I'm going to use his information for our benefit, I might as well at least give him a shout out. Right? So they do every Wednesday. They do bingo. Most Thursdays they do trivia. Usually like once a weekend, sometimes twice a weekend, they'll bring in live music Fridays and Saturdays. And then once a month on Sundays, they'll do cornhole tournaments. So they've stuck with all those because they all do actually bring in people at different times. And they try to keep a food truck as much as they can Thursday through Sunday. So all the stuff we've mentioned, it all works because they've seen a boost since they started doing all of them. The trivia one's interesting because they almost gave up on it because they were just doing general trivia and they were only pulling the same people that were there basically anyway. But then they started doing targeted subjects. They started with 80s movie trivia, went through like the 2000s. And those nights all of a sudden saw like a boom in business. So it's like trivia, if you're smart about it, can be way bigger than just, a little blip. It can actually pull in a ton of people.
Oh, so it's all about being specific about the topic, right? So you'd be like the office trivia or something like that.
Yeah. So speaking of office trivia, we used to live by King's Beer House down in the Heights, and they did Harry Potter trivia one time and Office trivia one time in the middle of the week. And those nights when we drove by, there was more people there than you see on like a Friday, Saturday at like dinner time. It was crazy packed. So yeah, if you hit those topics that people really like, they will like show out for it.
Nice.
I'm a little surprised because like I've some of those events, like they just, I don't know if it's because we have kids and I just not paying attention to all of them, but I'm never thinking, well, I'm going to go seek out trivia or bingo or cornhole. I'm usually looking at the beer board.
I'm actually annoyed when there's trivia because it's just like noise.
Takes away the vibe of takes the music away.
Yeah, it's just like noise, someone like talking in the background, and it's like.
Is that because you're not good at trivia?
I'm above that. I'm above that childish game.
I think we know our answer.
But I feel like that is a big difference. Like having a family and kids to get them out, go to the brewery. Like we're obviously not looking to go like, do trivia, do bingo. So like our answer is probably going to be way different than a lot of other, the other half of the people that go to breweries.
Yeah, I think you're right though. Like when you have the kids, it's like you're not hopping from brewery to brewery. You're like establishing your ground and staying there. So like 9 times out of 10, you're getting food. So like back to Ryan's comment on like having the food truck, like I can't think of a time where I've gone to the brewery with my kids and not bought something from a food truck. It's like guaranteed. So that's a big deciding factor if you have a place that's got good food and good beer.
Well, I think food is a qualifier. Like you need food.
Yeah, you don't go like, somewhere that doesn't have food.
Yeah, with the family, you don't go to a brewery that doesn't have a food truck or food.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so to piggyback on the Instagram answers, I actually did some boots on the ground work and talked to a couple of my contacts, and they're also married with kids. One of them has 3 kids, the other one has 2 kids, and they both gave me identical answers. They both said what draws them to a brewery is obviously it's a place they know that's going to have good beer they're going to like. They have to have a food truck or just good food in general. And what keeps them coming back more often is if they know there's going to be something new that they can't find in the store. Was a big thing for them too. So that was something we mentioned that I also think is like something that I feel like not a lot of places, a surprisingly few amount of places do like let out more experimental, like tap room only, kind of like small batch experimental stuff.
So you said boots on the ground. I was imagining you going like door to door, knocking on people's doors and asking.
Yeah.
I'm Ryan from the Beer and Agency podcast.
I played it up a little too much.
It sounded cool. Before we move on to the next topic, I'm going to crack my next beer, which is the Hazy Hot Bomb IPA from Symbol Brewing out of Dallas, Texas. I picked this up at HEB, and it's got 110 pounds of hops from 10 different hop varieties. So I have a feeling this is going to be a bit of a palate wrecker.
Oh, boy. Well, while we're in the business of cracking our next beer, I better do the same. So I am not going to be able to say the name of this beer.
Kaleidoscope?
Is that what it is? Kaleidoscopic.
Kaleidoscopic. Yeah.
Kaleidoscopic.
Yeah.
Kaleidoscope.
You're butchering beer names today, dude.
I know. Triple IPA by the Urban South HTX Brewery.
So I'll say one more thing. And one of the guys that I talked to today about this had an interesting perspective on this. He said when he goes to a brewery, he wants it to be a brewery feel. He doesn't want it to feel like a bar. And that made me think about how like bingo is like a very traditional, like bingo and trivia both are kind of traditional like bar things. So it kind of gives an interesting way to think about it. It's like how much of a bar do you want it to be versus like a completely separate feel?
I completely agree with that. Like a brewery, I think has a completely different feel. And like, I feel like a degenerate if I would take my kids to a bar during the day. But like, I don't think twice about taking them to the brewery.
Especially when you show up when they open at 11, get lunch there. You don't feel nearly as much of a degenerate at a brewery as you would a bar.
Yeah.
It's also completely acceptable for a brewery to put in like a playground for kids, but a bar that's like weird.
Yeah, it's like
pedophile-ish.
I have to say it.
It's something that someone will file a serious complaint about. All right, I think it's time for us to get into a little bit of BS today. If you don't think that what we've already been doing is BS.
My time to step in, gentlemen.
Let's bring on the BS music.
So today we're going to talk about when your child's teacher slaps you in the face and basically assigns homework assignments to you.
So I'm going to back up and give a little context here.
Yes, please.
So Adam and
that wasn't clear what I meant.
No, not at all. So Adam and I, we've got third graders as our oldest. Up until now, school has been great. There's been very little homework. Kids have enjoyed it. They loved it. This year has been like a cold slap to the face on the amount of work that's being assigned to the kids.
It's about the same amount of work that I was doing in college.
Yeah, that's fair. But what makes our situation unique, because Adam and I, our kids have the same teacher for math and science. She has an interesting way of assigning homework. So like when we were kids, like you'd print it out on a sheet of paper and you'd hand it to the kids and you're like, this is your homework. But there's so much technology now and it's like, okay, I'm going to use Class Tag or I'm going to use some random app that Google Classroom. And so we're getting assignments that are assigned to the parents. And then we ask our kids about those assignments and they're like, I don't know anything about that. And so it's literally a parental homework assignment.
It's our homework assignment to constantly search these 5 different apps to find out what homework assignments there are. So that's assignment number 1. Then assignment number 2 is this damn solar system project, which was like 10 times more complicated than the most gifted and talented third grader in the whole world could ever possibly do.
So, Ryan, they sent us a rubric that had like 10 different sections on what they had to do, like what they had to present, what they had to do on the this model of the solar system. But I'm going to take a twist on this episode, and it kind of turned into a little bit of a competition between Adam and I and our wives about how the project went. And we were texting each other and we're like, hey, I'm going to kick your ass on this project. If I don't get an A, then I'm going postal. So it kind of became it almost came like a lawn competition.
Well, it's like literally it was our grade. Like our children like participated, but you know, who did the most work? It was the parents.
I mean, the hardest solar system project would be to determine when Pluto is not considered a planet versus a dwarf planet. I still have no idea what's going on with that.
Well, that's what complicates it, is that we want to put Pluto in it, and it isn't there anymore.
In our day, Pluto was a planet, and now it's not.
Now it's not. And how can this teacher expect us to complete these homework assignments, and no one has taught us that Pluto is no longer a planet?
So Ryan, how do you think you would approach it with your kids when you have a project like this that you have a limited timeline to do? Like, are you going to like try to force your kid to like step up and do it themselves? Or are you going to feel a little bit of pressure to make sure that they get an A?
I think Allison would be the first one to say that I wouldn't be able to sit idly by and watch their work happen.
I made my daughter get like a can of spray paint and I was like, you're going to spray paint this box. But then when it came to like doing the like hot glue gun and stuff, I was like, all right, I guess we're on the hook for this part. But we had her do enough stuff that it looked like a third grader did it. But then we did the hard, heavy lifting.
We made her do all the writing. We thought it'd be a little suspicious.
To write in calligraphy. There's one question on this project. I mean, we've bitched about it a little bit, but I think there's a little bit of a parental competition here that needs to be aired out. So I think we should talk about the final grade of the project.
I'm dying to hear this.
Bullshit. What grade, according to the rubric, or what was assigned to us by the teacher? The discrimination I faced.
I went solely by the rubric. I don't know what you did.
What I deserve.
What you were entitled to?
What I was entitled to based on the solar system that we produced was 100.
Yeah. So I'm guessing it was slightly lower than 100.
Our grade was a 90.
That's still an A. You did good. You did good, Adam.
So my wife and I and this teacher just are not doing well. That we'll just
oil and water.
We'll leave it at that. And like, so we got the grade, and I'm like looking at the rubric, and I had it all typed up, like where I was going to take a picture of this section of the rubric where she docked us a grade, and then take a picture of the solar system. And I was going to say, help me understand what criteria was not met.
So you were gonna throw down over a 90. So I know, like, when it comes to women, Karen is the name that's usually associated with that. But what's the male Karen, Ryan? Is that a Chad? What's a male Karen?
Chad I always liked Keith too. It's always a good one.
So, I got 100. Just wanted to point that out. But
so good.
I'm wondering though, like there was some history where you'd had like a parent teacher conference. That was before the project, right?
It was, and
do you think that could have influenced your final
there's no doubt
grade?
about it.
So this is really Drew versus Adam. I just want to say that Drew got the 100 and Adam got a 90. That's all I want to say on this podcast.
Well, the portion of the rubric that we got points deducted was Jody's section of responsibility. So any shit you're talking, I'll be sure to let Jody know.
You're throwing your wife under the bus. I'm going to let her know about this.
But it was just the whole assignment. As soon as I saw that, I was getting ready to MF for that teacher, because like it was just like, it's like when your kid's in preschool and like they have to like do a poster and stuff like that. They can't fucking write. They can't do anything. And so it's like you're assigning the parents homework. And that's really what this situation was.
I was trying to find ways to make my daughter like search for information when they had to find facts on planets. So I was like, go ask Alexa. I literally had her go like, hey, Alexa, what's a fact about Mars? And then Alexa would tell her. I was like, that's great. Just put that down.
Teacher, are you listening?
Alexa is never wrong.
Cheating?
Don't you dare
Are you
drag her name through the mud.
I am hearing some plagiarism. Did you put Alexa on your reference sheet?
I like to see the bibliography. Just Alexa says so.
So that brings us into the next part of this BS conversation that I'm dying to talk about, is that if you have a teacher that you're feeling like may not be doing the best job they could be doing, how do you handle that situation? Can you ever provide feedback to a teacher in a safe environment? I feel like that is a super touchy subject.
That is the dilemma. And so let's just say if I wasn't worried about retaliation, there would be a lot of coaching and probably escalating going on right now. I definitely would have talked to the principal.
You can tell you work in corporate America. You got like you're coaching the teacher, you're escalating.
Yeah. Well, just like I typed it and I was like, Jody, how does this sound? And she's like, you sound like an email you're typing to one of your workers. And that's like my thing. It's always like, help me understand.
Yeah.
Like, if you ever get an email from me that says, help me understand, it's like, I completely fucking disagree with you, is the translation.
Now we know the code.
Yeah.
Ryan, what do you think? Like, is there an acceptable time to provide feedback to your kid's teacher?
I do love the coaching term. I'm extremely non-confrontational, so yeah, that's not going to be me for sure. I'm just gonna like bite my lip and like nod, be like, okay.
Until you're getting a 90 on the solar system project, that's when shit turns.
I was just saying, it's easy for me to talk now. We'll see.
Yeah, I feel like you drafting up that email, like my wife and I have had multiple moments where we're like, oh, we need to do something. We need to schedule a conference. We need to do this. And then we back out because it's like, oh, you know what? I don't want to be that parent. Someone else will do it, right? Someone else will tell her that she's like really not doing it right. We don't have to be Karen.
We have been Karen with her. Like we've met with her a couple times. So
I'm glad that you're being Karen, so I don't have to be.
Well, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to like gather up the troops for like a union strike. And so I've been talking to you and a couple other parents and being like, we need to get together. So there's so many of us going at her at once that like retaliation's not possible. It's like we need to storm in there, kick down the fucking principal's door.
I think you underestimate the power of teachers. I think she's prepared to throw down. You come in and it's like jujitsu, like boom, boom, boom. So I think it's the time of the podcast. It's been a little while since we've brought you up to date on our HTOWN Brewery Challenge. So Ryan mentioned one brewery in our last episode, which was Location 6, but we have another 4 breweries that we want to briefly touch on. But I will remind you, this is just a quick blip on these breweries, and you can go to our website at crossthestreamsmedia.com, check out our podcast, other podcasts, but especially check out our HTOWN Brewery Challenge page, where you can find our spreadsheet where we have given our little mini blogs on each of these breweries. So with that, out of these 4 breweries, Adam, you want to talk about the ones you went to?
I am a full-time T-ball coach. That has put a significant reduction on my brewery attendance.
I thought you were the assistant to the T-ball coach.
I have been promoted
to assistant coach.
Assistant to the assistant. Responsible for the third base signals and the ultimate decision of do I send the runner home or not.
The weight of the world on your shoulders.
Even though we can only advance one base at a time. And no one can field it or catch.
Would you grade your ability a 90 out of 100 or higher?
I think that is being very generous.
I just thought of a great Beer Ain't Easy episode. So Ryan, you need to come down south and we're going to go to one of Adam's coaching games. We're going to drink beer and jeer from behind the fence while Adam is coaching. I think this is a great episode.
I got kicked out of the last game.
Wait, what? How is this the first we're hearing about this?
Cussing out the official or the umpire.
Did you?
Yeah.
You're full of shit.
There is no umpire.
Okay.
I was like, oh my God.
That would have been the other coach.
This would have been a great story. You should have just
I could have totally pulled it off.
You had I was all in on this.
So what I will say is that coaching your kids is much more engaging than watching your kids. And so I've enjoyed this T-ball season like 1,000 times more than last season. Not all parents have the privilege and the skill set to be a coach. And so, Drew, this is really more for you, Ryan, just something for you to think about as your kids get there, because I just don't think Drew has what it takes.
Well, there's a saying out there that says, for those that can't play, coach. All right. So
All right, back on track.
back to the brewery challenge. So luckily, Ryan and I have held up our end of the bargain here. So Ryan, is there one of those breweries that we've been to that you want to like kick us off with?
I'll start with Eighth Wonder. We all went there one night for the brother-in-law's birthday. That was one of the early ones I went to back when they were in their old building, didn't have AC or anything. But yeah, now it's a gigantic space, like easily the biggest space of any brewery I've ever been to. It's all Houston sports themed, all Houston culture related, tons of artwork related to Houston. They have the Beatles statues. If you've ever been over there, the We Heart Houston sign that used to be on I-10 got moved right behind their building. It's over there. Yeah, they stick to the theme of Houston, and great place for the kids to run around and play. They can wear themselves out. Like we mentioned earlier in the episode, they have the ET Boys food truck that makes really good food.
Yeah, I feel like that ET Boys sandwich that I had was like one of the best food truck sandwiches I've had in Houston. That was a fantastic sandwich.
Yeah, it's great. And they have loaded fries that are a meal unto themselves as well. Yeah, it's the food truck's amazing.
Yeah. What I love about Eighth Wonder is they always have the theme of Houston rappers too, and their beer names, and they had like pictures of DJ Screw up in there. So like I had a really enjoyable time. Eighth Wonder is one of those like beers that I never want to buy because like there's not a lot of the beers that are distributed in stores that I'm like super excited about. But like the brewery experience is really awesome, and it's very Houston centric. So I that kind of renewed my energy going to that brewery there. So
what's one you want to talk about, Drew?
I want to talk a little bit about Great Heights. So Ryan and I went to Great Heights a week or so ago, and the more that I drink their beer, it's one of those beers that you don't see a lot of distribution, right? You got to go to the source to get their beer. And I feel like they're in my top 5 favorite like beer quality breweries in Houston. Their beer quality is fantastic. They've got great West Coast IPAs, and they had a Ladder to Heaven was a hazy that they had that was just really awesome. So I can't say enough about the beer quality is really good there. They got a little patio area outside. They've kind of expanded over the years. I wouldn't say it's like super catered to kids. It's more like a Houston Heights type of hangout, but I've taken the baby there and I've gone, without kids, and it's a pretty enjoyable experience.
Yeah, they do have a pretty big assortment of games you can play. That's they don't have a place for kids to play, but at least there's like some games that could keep them occupied. They have a semi-permanent food truck called the Purple Flower that's really, really good. I mean, whenever you're there, there's tons of people that show up and just get pizza to go just for the pizza alone because it's so good. And I guess I'll just piggyback right off of that, like not right across the street, but on the same block. Drew and I also stopped by Walking Stick, and that place is, I set it on our little tracker sheet, but it might be the prettiest tap room in Houston. It's got like an indoor-outdoor thing with like roll-up windows on both sides, and it's fully decorated with plants and flowers everywhere. The family that owns it's from Colorado, and they're like into nature and stuff, and it like really comes through with the way they set up the brewery, and all the tap handles are out of carved wood and stuff. So it's just really well lit, and it looks amazing. But they have a playground set up out back with like a wood train built up out there, and like a little mini, like I think little carousel thing and stuff. So yeah, that's a great place to bring a family.
Yeah, I'll second that. The tap room is second to none in Houston. It was really awesome looking on the inside. I will say I didn't find the beer that I'm like super in love with there, but I'm just going to keep drinking them because that place will draw you there until you find the right beer. So I will end this out. The last brewery out of our ones to talk about today. We went to True Anomaly, I think, on that tour for our other brother-in-law's birthday as well. I really dig True Anomaly. There's it's a pretty modest space. There's not a lot of outdoor area, but they have a little patio. While we were out there, they had some live music going on, so that's a plus. Their beers, I feel like they've made some pretty good saisons, and so I'm always gravitating towards those. And that's not a beer type that you see a lot around the city, so definitely appreciate that. And it's got a space theme.
Sticking to the theme, even down to the Even their diaper changing station, they called it like the baby package jettison area or something. So they even stuck to the space theme down to that. It's like they were very detailed about the space theme. Baby poop's all I got to contribute to that.
So I think that recaps the brewery challenge. We're going to keep going. We got a lot of breweries to go. And when T-Ball's over, Adam may be able to go to a brewery one day.
It depends if the next team recruits me.
If he's going into the minor leagues as a coach. So, Adam, you want to take us home today?
You have now been informed on what draws everyone to the best breweries in Houston.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for coming, Solar System. That is beering ain't easy.
It was kind of a lame closeout today.
We'll see y'all next time.
This has been a Beering Ain't Easy production in Houston, Texas. Follow us on Facebook or Instagram. And if you want to see what we're drinking, our untapped handles are Beering Ain't Easy Adam and Beering Ain't Easy Drew.
This has been a Cross the Streams Media Podcast.